Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Two Gays About It, the podcast that brings voice to the over 50 gay male. I'm Tom Burke.
And I'm Michael Foley.
And we are just a couple of gay men over 50, friends, just hanging out, talking about things. And Michael, I actually have a question for you today.
Yes, Mrs. Ricardo.
I'm so not Mrs. Ricardo. I'm more. What was Mrs. Trumbull? I'm more of a Mrs. Trumbull.
Oh, I would have said Ethel, but
okay. All right. Here's a question because I have read some things that have lit a fire under me. Mm-hmm. So, Michael, do you think gay men over 50, and that includes guys in their 60s and 70s and 80s, so do you think gay men over 50 can be in a real and lasting relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too, but apparently we are wrong.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Says
okay,
who?
I'm gonna tell you. Well, I'm not gonna say their name, the book they wrote, or the publication they work for, because I am not giving them any credit or any PR. Two guys.
Well, shouldn't you say his name?
No.
Well,
no.
Okay. All right. I get it.
There are two gay male writers. One of them wrote this: gay relationships are based solely on physical attraction, and once youth starts to fade, we as gay men are unlikely to have any real or lasting relationship. I know, keep your mouth open like that for another second. The other guy writes, for gay men over 50, basically you're either married or you're single. There are no other types of relationships. And if you're married, it's not a real or happy relationship. Right?
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I am not kidding you.
Okay, really? So they wrote this book together?
No, there was one guy who wrote a book, and then the second guy had written an article about how hard it is for a gay man to have a real relationship over the age of 50.
Okay, I just want to say that these are two obviously incredibly bitter gay men who live a very myopic life. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, the fact that the one is saying that, well, there's only two types of relationships that you can have. Either you're married or you're single. And if you're married, it sucks. But that's not even close to being true, right?
You took me out. You took me by surprise with this.
Right?
Well, I'm struggling a little because again, I just have such a hard time wrapping my head around what these people's life must be and how unhappy they are.
But also the fact that they're putting that out into the world. So now people are, I picked this up just by Googling stuff. So this is what people are believing out there. And for those of you that don't know us, Michael and I are friends. We've been friends for a long time. We are both over the age of 50. I'm a married guy and Michael is a single guy. But we are only representing a very, very small amount of gay men over 50. I mean, as many unique and special and amazing and different and creative men that are out there, there's just as many kinds and types of relationships out there as well. It's not just being single or married. It's not just
and how unbelievably arrogant that you say once your beauty starts, not you, the writer, sorry.
Wait,
sorry, I'll clarify.
Are you telling me my beauty's fading as we're speaking?
How unbelievably arrogant to push your idea of aging and relationship onto the masses and say that our relationships are based solely on sex.
Right.
Because you could say that about heterosexuals too. Of course, it's based on that initially because that physical appearance is what attracts you to somebody. But, if you're going to sustain something, it has to move beyond that at some point.
Oh, totally. I mean, that is, yes, those first few months are amazing because all those sparks are flying.
Oh, yeah.
But after that, if there isn't anything of substance, you can't really have a real relationship. But the fact that this one guy is telling me that, yeah, I've been married for 35 years, but it's not a happy and it's not a real relationship because, as you mentioned already, my beauty faded a long time ago. But, thank God my husband's eyesight has been going away as well. So he still sees me as that, hot 28-year-old, but
Well,
unbelievable.
I think with couples who have been together that long, they do see each other as that person who they fell
Oh,
in love with. That everybody wears those glasses. You see what you saw that moment you first realized that you were in love. That's how it was for me anytime I was in a relationship. That you you don't see the little changes or something. You just know who that person is, and that's why you love them.
oh no, you see those changes. Believe me. There are times
Okay.
when
All
I
right.
am looking across the room going like, who the fuck are you? And I know he's looking at me going like, what the hell happened to you? But it's also part of, this relationship that we built. It wasn't based, only on our looks or only on our beauty or whatever that guy was saying. There's so much more that goes into
Right.
relationships.
So, okay, you have those moments, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
obviously, it hits us all the time when we walk by a window or a mirror and go, "Who the fuck is that?" But then there has to
Right.
be that moment that follows that you see, or subsequent moments where you look at them and go, "I I know exactly why I fell in love with you."
Yeah, but it's not. I don't look at him and see a physical reason why I
Right.
have fallen. He
And
does
that
one of those.
proves that this
Yeah. Oh,
man's, you
exactly.
know, thesis is just totally full of shit.
But the thesis is so wrong on so many different levels. The fact that yes, not every relationship is built on just the physical appearance, but also the fact that there are only two different types of relationships. Yeah, I'm in a committed married relationship. Great. That's just one, of multitudes of relationships that are out there. Not only in the gay community, but also in the straight community, in the lesbian community, in the trans community. Like everybody builds the relationship that they want, that they need.
And that
It's
works for the two parties who are involved, and that's
exactly
how it should be.
right.
You know,
Oh, totally.
I'm not one of those people who will ever be in an open relationship. I just won't. I'll stay single if that's the case. Um, and I'm good with that because there are certain things I just realized through the course of my life I'm not willing to give up in the dynamic of an open relationship, and that's just me. And so I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you and your husband ever had that conversation, or has it ever? Because let's face it, we live in Palm Springs, a lot of open relationships here,
A lot
and
of
that's
open.
if that
Yeah.
works for them, more power to them.
Right.
So especially since being out here now for over 2 years and seeing that, have you guys ever discussed that, or just the dynamic of that? Or obviously it's not something that would work for you, but I'm just curious if you've had those conversations.
No, if he was to bring that up, you would see him in the driveway with me backing over him because that's never going to happen. Like I too, I don't understand that. For me, the like a thruple, I could never be in a thruple.
Yeah.
I could never. I heard someone on the radio talking about their quadruple. Like, no, it's hard enough to be in a couple and to have to deal with two different personalities and two different likes, and I don't want to be the one on the outside, because I would think, and again, I've never been in in an open relationship or in a throuple or anything like that. So I would just think that maybe one would like someone better than the other, or I don't know. I wouldn't want to be
Well,
compared.
having done a lot of research on my own
Yeah,
with
I'm sure you
couples,
have.
um, uh, it is an interesting dynamic
Yeah.
because when you do partake in a threesome, um, you're always attracted to one more than the other.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And there have been multiple times, which is why I really don't. I went through this phase in my like mid 30s through my 40s where that seemed to be presenting itself all the time. And so I took full advantage. But there was always the situation where I was more attracted to one than the other. And the other partner realized that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would just get up and walk out of the room. And then, of course, the mood changes, and I'm like, is he okay? Do we need to stop? Do you need to go take care of him? He goes, no, he's fine. This just happens, you know. And I just was like, oh, okay. But it creates a really uncomfortable situation for me.
Right.
Which is eventually why I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just, I played enough and experienced them enough where I don't need to anymore, because it never fails that dynamic doesn't happen.
Right.
And then again, during that time, I did my research, you know. I did my due diligence, and would always ask because sometimes a relationship outside of the bedroom developed with the one who I was more attracted to.
Right.
And I can't help myself, but I asked questions. And one of them was like, well, so, because it's always been hard for me to wrap my head around. Do you guys trust each other completely? And the response was always a very quick yes. But then I had my follow-ups, because I brought up the fact that, you know, their partner left the room. And I was like, that has to weigh somehow on your coupleness.
Totally.
And I was like, so you're telling me if he comes home an hour late for dinner and didn't contact you or something, you wouldn't be experiencing jealousy or, you know, what's going on? Is he out fucking somebody? What's happening? He goes, yeah, that happens. And I was like, well, then is the trust complete? Because a lot of them had the don't ask, don't tell unless they were together relationship.
Right.
So, and one couple in particular who, because I really liked the guy as a person, and we got very close. I hate to say that when I pushed these issues, it sort of made him think, and they wound up breaking up like 6 months later after more than a decade together. But now he's in a couple where that dynamic doesn't exist, and that's what works for him, because there's always that thing of one wants the open relationship more than the other, and the other one seems to acquiesce.
I had a friend in college who we were probably around 30. He had gotten married, and he so wanted to bring in another girl. He married a female, and he wanted to bring in this female, and she was like, no. And finally, I guess she gave in. And then all of a sudden, there was another female in the group. And like within a year, the two women moved out together. The poor guy was like, what did I do? But obviously she was not happy wherever she was. But, you know, we're saying this about open relationships. They work for a lot of people, as we've
Absolutely.
seen, you know?
And I'm only speaking from my experience.
Yeah,
and I've had a number of them.
Right.
So, you know,
But if it works for you, then great. You know, and if you're both communicate and honest and, you know, are upfront about everything, then, you know, whatever works for you. You know, the same thing with another type of relationship, whether it be straight or gay, is just that like friend with benefits, you know, that it's definitely a relationship. You just don't want to be committed. You don't want to be living together, but you want, you know, to have those benefits. And as long as you both agree on it and you both are fine with whatever, then more power to you. You know, do whatever you want.
And I think that is the key, the communication and keeping the channels open. Then the don't ask, don't tell doesn't really seem to work for the people who at least I was involved with. Because again, insecurities, we're human. Insecurities happen. Jealousies happen. And I think if you sit on that stuff, resentment starts to build.
Sure.
And some of these couples actually wouldn't have sex with each other. They would have sex outside of the relationship, or if a third came in.
Well, you know,
and again, you know what? More power to you, but it just goes to show you that this person who you mentioned or didn't mention at the beginning of this conversation is clueless as to what actually any relationship, the dynamic of any relationship, because this is in the straight world too. Let's be real.
Oh, totally.
What that is.
The fact that he's saying, like, you know, gay men over 50 can't be in a real relationship, well, that's bullshit. I mean, I'm sure you know these guys too. There are relationship people, that go from one relationship to the next. Once one is over, they just move on again. I have a friend who lost a husband after really 40 years or something, who was so used to being in that couple that just moved, on into another couple. And again, he's very happy. This is working for him. Um, it just, again, it's just so narrow-minded to think that there's just one or two ways to be in any sort of relationship.
And again, just to have the gall to tie our relationship to purely a sexual motivated.
Well, how many straight men of power out there have left the first wife to go to the hot second wife, who then leave the hot second wife to go to that third wife who's, barely the same age as his children are, because it's not just in the gay world.
One right off the top of my head is the orange boil who sits on the ass of humanity,
Right.
who, he didn't even have the cojones to leave his wife and then fuck around. He was fucking around before he left and then married the mistress. So,
yeah. So, and the fact is that once he sees that fading beauty, he's out of there and he's on to the next one. So again, saying that that's what the gay world is like, no, I'm not buying it.
You know what? My question to this person, I wish you would give me his name. My question to this person is, who hurt you? And I'm really serious, because that's devastating to hear on many levels. It angers me, first of all, because it's like, you're an idiot. Yeah, that's a little judgy, sorry. But it also, it bothers me because this man is obviously shutting himself off from any future experience of love. And that makes me sad, because you know what? Being here in Palm Springs, and being single, I circulate, and I see a lot. I see a lot of that. I see a lot of. I'm not even sure they know that they're bitter, but you could just see that they've been hurt, and they don't want to let down that wall.
Right.
And that makes me sad for anyone, straight, gay, anyone who's walled themselves up like that.
So dating is actually a form of a relationship, whether it be once, twice, 3 times, or more, right?
It's an exhausting one, let me tell you.
Well, it's one that you're choosing, though.
Absolutely.
Correct? Yeah. So, I've chosen to be in this committed relationship for, it's a lot of work and I mentioned that a lot, but it is. Just as I would imagine being single and dating is also a lot of work. It
is, and it's obviously a different kind of work, because if you are dating, there's always that first date where you sort of give your bio and your experience, and it becomes almost robotic after a certain amount of dates, that it's just like, oh, we have to do this again. But sometimes, believe it or not, that doesn't happen on the first date, and you just talk about everything else. And those are the ones for me that like really work, because then you get to know each other as it progresses. And that's kind of my favorite kind of date, is where, you don't need to hear that my mother stabbed me, or, I had this horribly dysfunctional childhood right off the bat.
Right.
It's just nice conversation, and that's an awesome thing.
Okay, cool. So let me ask you a question. Do you not want to be in a relationship?
Nope. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm just wondering, do you like being the single guy dating? Because that, like I said, that's a form of a relationship, and that if that's something you choose to do, or are you actually out there looking for more of a commitment of some sort?
Yeah, I know we've touched on this in previous shows, so some folks out there might know this about me as already, but I do really, really, really want a relationship. But I don't need one, and therein lies the difference for me, because I'm not going to make the square peg fit into the round hole anymore. I did that for many decades early on.
Yeah.
So I think it's more challenging now because it's funny. I just read something about this on one of the gay Facebook's pages here. That it's not that we don't want a relationship. It's that I think the bar gets raised a little, and we know what it is we want now.
Right.
And there's less tolerance for certain things.
Well, I was talking to another friend of mine who is single, although straight, and he was saying that it's also difficult once you're of a certain age, and he also is a contemporary of ours, saying that, I'm really set in my ways and I don't really want to bring someone into my world to disrupt that. Like, I like to do things my way. I like to keep my home my way. And so after I spoke with him, I called another friend of mine, a female who lives in New York, also single. She's divorced, but she's been divorced for over 10 years now. And she was saying the exact same thing, that she would like to be in a relationship, but doesn't want it to change her life at all. So I was like, oh, okay. Because relationships are a lot about, give and take, right? So do you feel that way? Are you okay with someone coming in and disrupting your world?
Yeah, I'm more than okay with that, actually.
Yeah.
For me, it wouldn't be. I mean, obviously, it would be challenging initially, but I think the benefits far outweigh anything that would be negative, especially if it's the right person. I am not that person who needs a relationship anymore. I want one, but I don't need one.
And because you're out there because you're out there dating a
Wow.
lot. Just
Wow.
kidding.
In case anybody missed that, he did say whoring. So
since you're out there dating a lot, do you find that there are a number of men over 50 who have left relationships, who have been with someone for a really long time, then have divorced, or lost them through death, or just split up, so that they're back in the dating pool? Is that prevalent out there as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because again, of our age, people get divorced,
Sure.
people's partners pass. So yeah, it's definitely a big part of it. And when you got people who have most of their shit to the curb, I think the perspective is different when you enter into a new relationship. It's not that doughy-eyed 20, 30 something thing that we all used to do. How old were you when you got involved with Scott?
I was in my 20s.
Sorry for mentioning your name, Scott.
No, so you can talk about him. I talk about him all the time. Okay. Scott.
But we always say your husband, so Scott.
My husband.
His husband.
Yeah, so I was in my 20s.
So how vast was your dating experience prior to meeting him?
It wasn't huge. I was not that guy to begin with. And also what I was doing in life, I couldn't be out open, dating a lot. I didn't want to either. And believe me, Scott will tell you the same stories. If you wanted a piece of this, you had to really work for it. Like, I did not give this up, which is why I had this amazing career, because the less you give it, the more people want it, But even though when I met him, I kind of knew that there was something special between the two of us. Oh, but he had to work for weeks and months until he got a little piece of action here. So
months? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for you, Scott. Good for you for being that patient.
Oh, honey, I was so worth it.
Although you want to hear another, I mean, along that line is,
Sure.
I dated somebody like that, and we didn't have sex for 10 months back in the 80s.
Yeah, I would not have a problem with that. As long as you were, taking me out and flying me places, sure.
I'll smell you. All right.
Go.
I just asked for to hold my hand and, cuddle. Yeah. That's what that made everything okay. Although I was, horny as fuck by the 10-month. And it was so funny. Everybody, circle of friends was like, it's going to be the pop heard around the world.
But, also men our age will totally understand this. Back in the 80s, no one was really, well, I don't know, but
They
it
were.
wasn't safe to be jumping from guy to guy, bed to bed,
But they still were. There were people who wouldn't even want to have that conversation. I remember somebody slamming on his brakes in his car once. We were driving into New York. It was a friend, because I had just started volunteering at the Gay Men's Health Crisis. And one of my other friends was asking me how it went. And, I was telling him the experience, and I was telling him that, you really got to start wearing condoms when you have sex. And the guy who was driving literally slammed on his brakes and said, if this conversation is going to continue, the two of you are going to get out of the car. And we were both like, what the fuck? That's how unwilling people were to have the conversation initially, because they were terrified. So, yeah.
And yet the only takeaway I get from that story is that you were driving into Manhattan, which meant
hello, Jersey boy.
You were one of the bridge and tunnel people.
Boy. Tunnel. Always the tunnel.
Oh, you guys, just bridge and tunnel, they were all the same.
No, tunnel
they were just
people are
those
different.
people.
Tunnel people are different.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about these relationships. So, yeah, in our gay community of men over 50, just as in anyone younger and anyone straight or whatever you're going to, label yourself as, there are so many different types of relationships. And I think you were right in saying that this man was hurt somewhere along the line, thinking that relationships are only built on, physical beauty, which makes me kind of think, well, maybe, that was an issue for him his whole life, which, I'm really sorry for that guy. But I mean, now, well, we do hang out a lot together, and you see a lot of our couple friends, and they're all different types of couples, and they're all seen like the funny guy, and there's the guy that's so caring, and there's it's so much more than someone's looks. I just feel bad for those people that, are still over 50 and so concentrated on their beauty not fading, and that's the only way they're going to, sexually attract somebody, when, God, they could just be themselves, That's all you have to do out there.
I think a lot of people our age still don't know who that is, because, I mean, there is an aspect to the community that's very sexually driven. There's no way. You got your circuit parties, even a couple of the bars here. They have underwear night, so it is. So I think people get caught in that sort of vortex of the sexual aspect of it, and don't necessarily know how to pull out and be anything else. Because I've had this conversation with you about people who will come up to me and it's immediately about sex,
right?
Which is the biggest turnoff to me ever. It's like, yeah, don't you want to know my name?
Right.
And because I'm not arrogant enough to not know that if it wasn't me sitting there, they'd be doing it to somebody else.
Sure.
So I don't feel all that special. I don't feel, it's the going for the Twinkie kind of thing. And I know in that moment, I'm the Twinkie. Twinkies probably, because not
honey,
Twinkie related. I'm the ding dong. I'm the ho ho. I'm the ho ho.
Oh,
there you
okay.
go.
I'll take that one. Yeah,
I'm the ho ho.
Great.
I prefer chocolate anyway. So, yeah, it's like you said, there are so many different aspects to who we are, especially at this age. And for somebody to pigeonhole it like that is just crazy.
Right. And the thing is that, beauty fades. Our bodies are never going to be as perfect as they were in our 20s. But the things that are ageless about us are, are being a loyal friend, the fact that we're the funny, or that, our intelligence isn't going to fade, our, compassion for life, our drive, all of that stuff is totally ageless. And those are the things that are attractive about someone. If you're confident in who you are as a person, that's so freaking attractive, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, would you rather? Well, I don't know. But if it was between a younger guy who's so incredibly beautiful, or someone your age who is so confident in who they are because they know that they don't have to be anything else. I mean, for me, I would be attracted to the confident guy as opposed to just it's just all about my beauty and my body.
Yeah, and that's kind of how and maybe because it's my perception of me, is that I've always been attracted to the looks, because I don't have a type. I have dated every color of Skittle that there exists. So I don't have a type, except for the fact of who they are as opposed to what they look like. I want somebody who's funny and honest and sort of willing to be a fool sometimes, and just have that sort of quality of like, just try something for the sake of trying it and not being afraid of being judged or not being able to do something right.
Fantastic.
That's always been my...
Yeah, so all you guys out there who are over 50, if you are in a relationship or looking for a relationship, just be you, That's all you have to do. Live the life that you want to live, be in the kind of relationship that you want to be in, but just be you, because you're awesome and amazing and special and different, and that's what makes you attractive to other people. It's not kind of how you look anymore. So,
and don't be afraid to take the risk, I think, is
sure.
The thing as a single man I can say without any hesitation, because there is that tendency to build up the walls and to be fearful, but take a risk. What's the worst that's going to happen? And just think of what the best that could possibly happen. And that's in any aspect of your life. Take up a new hobby, take up a new sport. Just get out there and do something.
Sure. All right, all you guys out there, get out there and do something.
And don't read that book, even though we don't know what book it is.
Which is why I'm not telling you what the name is.
Come
all right.
on.
No. All right. So now I would like to do one of my absolute favorite parts of our podcast, which is called the Savage Side Eye. And that's the moment that Michael and I throw some shade over to somebody or something that is kind of getting in our, what is that word? Craw?
Stuck in our craw.
Yeah. I don't know what those things are.
It's a Jersey thing. Actually, I think it's a Southern thing too. So I'm from South Jersey, so either one works.
Oh my God. It's getting worse, folks. All right. So, Michael, do you have anybody you'd like to throw some shade at?
Oh, do I?
Cool.
Kurt Cameron.
Oh, good Lord.
Who is out on a book tour. And he's combating, this is a direct quote, the storm of wokeism that is sucking the nation's children into a vortex.
Wow.
And this is the complete antithesis to what the drag queen reading hour is. He thinks he's going to combat that. And the shitheel actually was in Tennessee reading his book and got the director of the library in Sumner County, Tennessee, fired because he didn't think he was welcoming enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Talk about bitter.
Right.
I mean, Kurt, are you kind of upset that you're not getting acting gigs anymore? Where did that come from? That you actually would, because someone wasn't welcoming enough. It's not that the guy said anything derogatory. And
Right.
I'm quoting Miss Cameron. He wasn't welcoming enough. Okay. What the fuck does that mean? So yeah, Kurt, you get more than one side eye today. You're getting side eye. You're getting waving finger. Because you're a douche to get somebody fired because they weren't welcoming enough to you on your Christian book tour. Maybe the guy was Jewish. I don't know. Maybe he was an atheist. I don't know. What was he supposed to do? Get down in front of you and say a Hail Mary to make you feel welcomed? Just questions I'm asking. That's all.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that.
Hey, okay. I'm glad I got to vent too.
Very good. All right. Well, if anyone out there wants to vent as well, you can send us your side eyes, and we'd be more than happy to talk about those. Definitely email us. You can do that at no2gaysabout it, and that's the number 2, no2gaysabout it, @gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram at no2gaysabout it, and also Facebook. Type in no2gaysabout it. Remember, that's the number 2 gays about it. You will find us there.
And don't forget
Michael
TikTok.
I'm about to say that Michael is so. You'd think he was. I don't know. How old are the average people on TikTok? 12. Michael loves being on TikTok. I know.
I have to tell you, yeah, you got to get on TikTok. I'm telling you, there are people who are in their 70s and 80s on TikTok.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's everybody. It gives, I'm a little shocked because I have resisted it up until a week and a half ago.
Well, how can they find us on TikTok?
Find us on TikTok at no2 gays about it. No 2 gays about it.
See how easy that is, guys?
Yeah.
Just anywhere you want to go. And we would love you to join us on Patreon, be one of our patrons. And if you join us there for a slight little fee, you get all kinds of extra things, including we'll do a shout out to you. We'll talk about your side eyes. But more importantly, not only do you get to listen to us, but you get to see us doing our podcast.
Could you guys hear that eye roll? Because if you're not watching, you wouldn't see it. But did you hear the eye roll that I gave when he said that?
So find us on Patreon, and you can watch our beauty fade as we speak. It's fantastic.
Seriously, the petals are falling during this podcast.
The petals fell a long time ago. All right, so everybody out there, get out there and become a part of whatever relationship you want to be in life. Prove this man wrong, that there are so many different types of relationships, and that they're real and they're happy. And within our age group, men are out there thriving in relationships. So keep it going, everybody.
Absolutely. Take that risk.
Take the risk. Do something crazy. Oh, yeah. You can see me doing something really crazy. Michael and I were at the Red Dress Red party, and Michael was taking some videos, and I was going crazy. And Michael's like, what the hell are you doing? I was like dancing. And
he didn't even have a cocktail yet at that point.
No, I didn't.
I was just like, what the hell is going on here? He was running around in circles and
he was
woohooing his ass off.
Check. You can see all of that on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just got to find us. No 2 gays about it. All right, Michael, it's been fun today talking about relationships. I've got to get in there and make sure that my husband is happy in his. So until next time, Michael.
Until next time, Tom. Thank you, everybody, for listening.